That's it. We are done. We have just seen the very last AEW Dynamite of 2021. And if all those crazy conspiracy theorists are correct, the world is going to explode when we get to New Year's Eve, which means it is the last AEW show we will ever see for our entire lives. If that doesn't scare you, well, you must have a really good life because it terrifies the shit out of me. But that's not true because I'm not a crazy person that thinks planet Earth is going to blow up and I don't know how we got here. But yes, hello, my name is Simon from WhatCulture and it is time to take the finger of power and give the good bits and up and the bad bits and down for not only the last ever episode of AEW Dynamite in 2021, but also the last one, kinda, but sometimes it will come back for AEW Dynamite on TNT, so it's a big day. Let's up those downs. Man, do I just love how All Elite Wrestling treats people. Because the very first thing we saw on AEW Dynamite was Jim Ross returning to the announce booth because he has beaten cancer. He got a tremendous ovation, and this just made you feel all warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. And if you are one of these idiots on Twitter that argues against this, just go away. I don't want to talk to you. You have serious problems because this doesn't just get it up. It gets the golden up. And then just to ensure that you didn't forget that AEW is just the craziest of all places, our first match was the Jurassic Express teaming up with Christian Cage, teaming up with the Lucha Brothers to take on Matt Hardy, Private Party and FTR. So this was just like taking a bunch of sweets and putting it on your ice cream. It tasted so good and it's getting it up. It also tied into a few stories that we do have going on at the moment. And in the early going, it was mostly Christian and Jungle Boy taking FTR to the woodshed. Really, we shouldn't say that phrase anymore because I'm pretty sure it reverts back to a time when, like, if you were a kid and you did something bad, your parents would take you outside and kick the crap out of you. The Lucha Brothers were soon joining in, and as ever, they just make no sense because they do moves that do not calculate in your brain. And around this time, I think, is when Jungly Jim was all like, oh man, I want to get involved because he went to attack Mark Quinn. But instead, Mark Quinn gave him a Hurricane Rana and Jungle went right into Matt Hardy, who gave him the side effect. That's pretty cool. This meant the boy was in trouble and even Tully Blanche was interfering from the outside because that's just what he does too. But eventually, we got the big tag to Penta, then Phoenix got involved. They started to tangle with FTR and you already know the deal. With all of this, it just makes you spin round and round and round because it's so crazy and eventually you fall over. Private Party then absolutely murked Phoenix with this DDT, but even I was like, what are you doing, you fools? I know what he's going to do. He's going to flip, he's going to spin, he's going to do a quadruple Ramergan, and I don't know what that is, and he's going to get the hot tag to Luchasaurus, which is exactly what he did. The misunderstood dinosaur then murdered everyone, but the key point to this is that after he had done that, Penta blind tagged himself in. And Luchasaurus and Christian both looked at him like, how dare you do that? I mean, hasn't this extinct species suffered enough? The tail klaxon then hit, because everybody was going crazy. But once again, what you had to focus on is that Christian Cage then blind tagged himself back in. And then he and Penta just fell out. It was like your siblings arguing at Christmas. They were jaw jacket. FDR spied this from miles away though. They were like, well, we know what we can do. They slid in, they pushed the two together, they hit the big rig, onto Christian, they got the 1, 2, 3. They two smart eggs. So this was insane and like a roller coaster for your eyes, because even though there was around about 742 spots, they nailed every single one with such precision. I thought this was very, very good, and it's getting it up. And then I was kind of surprised, and I like being surprised. Because it was 2.0 teaming up with their son Daniel Garcia to take on Eddie Kingston, Santana and Ortiz, and I was really happy to see the Proud and Powerful here, for reasons we'll get into in just a few seconds. They deserve a bigger spotlight, and they started to get it. Kingston had to fight Matt Lee to begin with, even though he was desperate to get his hands on Garcia, and there was a little bit of a brawl, and when we reset, it was Eddie versus Jeff Parker, and this made me laugh because it was like a kid that was just desperate to get a PS5 for Christmas, but instead he gets a Coleco. I tell you, they'll rust up on you. Parker still got whooped by all of these three until Danny Garcia tagged back in, but this still wasn't working, so Lee on the outside basically had to cast distraction. That allowed Parker to start busting out backbreakers, and this is when the bad guys started to get to work. The whole build to this, though, was Eddie Kingston trying to get his hands on Danny Garcia, so he tried and he failed, and he tried and he failed, and he tried and he failed, but eventually he did do it, and he just started laying in those machine gun chops because he's a little bit crazy. It finally turned out that Santana was the legal man, but this is when it all went bad. Because given what they'd done a few weeks ago, Lee was like, well, why don't I just do it again? So as soon as Santana had missed his standing moonsault, he hit the most devastating move in all the sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and he held the trunks. And for the second time, he stole the pin. This led to a ton of boos because the crowd did not like that. And of course, Garcia in 2.0 then jumped everybody they could, which allowed Chris Jericho to make his big return to AEW Dynamite. He had Floyd the baseball bat. He chased everyone away. And then instantly, him and Eddie Kingston were basically getting back into it because that was the story from a few weeks ago and we going back to it. So this is really good stuff and I am glad that we did go back to that narrative because I was intrigued. So I am going to give it an up. But I also have to be a little bit of a negative Nancy, because while Santana Ortiz are always good every time they do get on TV, by the end of this, I did kind of look around, because that's what I do when I'm watching wrestling, I'm a bit weird, and I said to myself, they kind of feel like they've fallen into the background again, and I don't think we should be doing it. I mean, if AEW decided to align them with Kingston properly and even turn on Christopher Jericho, I'd be all for it, especially if it meant Santana Ortiz could then finally go after the AEW tag team titles. Now, there's every chance I'm jumping the gun, I have a habit of doing that, but I am going to give it a down because it has been a while. And really, we should be doing more with them. We then had an MJF promo after this, and I will level with you. It was wonderful. Firstly, he yelled about the fact that Sting had thrown him over the top rope last week. And I think this may have been a little bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge back to the days of pro wrestling when doing that was a DQ because he was all like, oh, you are not professional. And then he turned his attention to CM Punk and he's like, CM, what is the point of you? I tried to wrestle you last week, but you kept running away. And of course, as we know, it was the exact opposite because Maxwell Jacob Friedman is a dick. He also went after Wardlow, who was sitting right there, because he was like, listen, pal, you need to start winning matches. You need to get in the face of the Revolution ladder match. You need to get that #1 contendership for the TNT title, and then you need to give it to me, because while you're doing that, I'm also going to go after the World Championship, so I can be a double belt guy. Now, obviously, Wardlow was about to go, shut up, you absolute moron, that's not happening, when Mark Sterling, who in the past has operated as MJF's lawyer, said, well, actually, here's your contract, and you did sign that, so you better do it. And I was like, Wardlow, why the flub did you sign that? What is wrong with you? So all of this just rocked because not only did we continue to tease MJF versus CM Punk, but we also continue on the slow build for Wardlow, who eventually is going to rip Maxwell's head off and probably throw up down his neck. I regret saying that, it just came out of my mouth. The point is, we achieved all of this in around about 3 minutes. It is getting it up. Christian then continued his whole, hey, maybe I'm going to become a bad guy, because he was so mad and demanded that we did do the Lucha Brothers versus the Jurassic Express for the AEW tag team titles. They then did turn up with Alex Abrahantes, who basically went, shut up, Christian, you're old. I think that was very nice. And then Wardlow killed Colin Delaney. I mean, he picked this guy up 4 times, he slammed him down to a mat, but given what we had just seen, it is getting it up. It was the usual multiple power bombs, 1, 2, 3, when Sean Spears started to attack him with a chair, but you just know where this is going. Like, you'd have to actively be going the other way not to realize what's going to happen here, and it will start with Sean Spears. Wardlow will beat him, then he'll go after Maxwell, and if he does beat MJF, good grief, I am going to feel so excited deep down in my tootsie toes. This is why long-term storytelling works. I can see it, but I gotta wait. And talk about teasing, we then went backstage where we saw the Elite and the Undisputed Era, although don't call them that, because we may get sued. The Young Bucks weren't happy that Kyle O'Reilly had just turned up last week because they didn't know anything about it. When Kyle said, can everybody please leave? I need to talk to Adam Cole. If you could get your head around this, he referenced things that had happened in NXT. Like, he didn't say that. He was like, well, last time you were around, Adam Cole, we weren't getting on very well, so I need to know, can I trust thee? So this is just the nerdiest and best thing ever, and I just love it. I love the fact that AEW is doing this. If you wanted an ending to that story, you're going to get it in All Elite Wrestling, and that is crazy. And actually, AEW, if you are watching, if you could also wrap up some other stories, that would be great. Like, go hire Elias and let me know what all those vignettes are about, because I still don't have a flubbing clue. Dan Lambert was then out cutting another promo, and as I said recently, he is so good at this, and probably the Rookie of the Year at 50. He just laid into the Rhodes family, including saying that when it came to Brandy Rhodes, he didn't even know anyone that was called Brandy that wasn't a stripper. And my shoulders kind of went up, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable, because, that's a pretty low shot. He also went after Cody Rhodes' neck tattoo, which got an absolutely ridiculous reaction when Brandy Rhodes interrupted, but she came out with the fire too. She called Dan Lambert a less talented Paul Heyman, and then Dan Lambert was talking about Jim Cornette, so inside baseball was everywhere. And then Brandy finished it off by going, "Have you ever been beaten up by a woman that you didn't pay to do it?" I was like, man, we ain't in Toto anymore, Kansas. This was actually going to lead to a fight between the two, like they were squaring up to each other when Dustin Rhodes ran down. I was like, would we all calm down? But when Dustin got beaten up by Ethan Page, did Cody come out to make the save? Of course he didn't, and I love it. Because he remains the most fascinating character in all of wrestling, especially if you've seen his new t-shirt and what he's been saying in interviews. And do not pretend this wasn't deliberate. There's still some people out there going, man, Cody Rhodes, he's not self-aware at all. He is the most self-aware person on the planet. And that's why this is getting an up. Everything we're seeing right now is leading somewhere, and I can't figure it out. But boy, howdy, I'm excited. As expected, Jade Cargill then defeated Thunder Rosa to get to the finals of the TBS tournament. And just another round of applause for this entire thing. I have enjoyed it muchly, and it even ended with a twist. This was surely one of Cargill's longest matches, and the rumor has been that her and Thunder Rosa have been practicing it all week, so fair play to them. And we even had a little bit of an old school twist here, because at one point Thunder Rosa worked over Jade Cargill's leg to the point it basically got rid of her strength. It still didn't hamper Cargill the entire time, because at one point Thunder Rosa went for a crossbody, Jade caught her and just ruined this woman's back. And you know the old saying, you can't live if you ain't got a back. I may have just made that up, but you can't argue with it, it's true. As soon as Rosa realized she was in trouble though, she started going dragon screw crazy, and she even locked on the figure four. And because I'm a massive idiot, I was like, well, she has been working over the leg. Maybe they actually want Thunder Rosa to go through to the final, and this is how they're gonna spin it. I mean, even after she hit the fall away slam, she wasn't able to capitalize on it because she wasn't able to stand up. And this is where it actually looked like she was going to lose, when she threw Thunder Rosa into the corner, when from nowhere, a hooded person turned up and just slammed Thunder Rosa right in the face. So we had sports entertainment here, people, and it did allow Jade Cargill to hit the glam slam, get the 1, 2, 3, and head to the final. I was like, well, who the hell was that masked warrior? And we found out instantly, because they did take off the hood, and it was none other than Mercedes Martinez. So once again, talk about NXT invading AEW, we ain't playing around. They both attacked Thunder Rosa after the fact when Ruby Soho made the save to tie into the finals, and I have two things to say about this. One, it protects Thunder Rosa, which we actually probably should do because she's going to be going for the world title soon. That just makes all the sense in the world. But two, when it comes to this damn Forbidden Door, we have seen it with the men time after time after time. Why not do it with the women? So I was a fan. Getting up. A well-timed video followed after this featuring Britt Baker versus Riho, because of course they have their AEW women's title match coming up. And then out came CM Punk. Ooh, Delaney. As ever, he was just the best, because not only did he shout out and welcome back Jim Ross, he talked about Brody Lee, which was really sad, and as always, shout out to Brody Lee. He was the absolute man, and he ripped into Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He's got to get it up. The best thing about it all, though, is that half an hour beforehand, or whenever Maxwell had cut that promo, and he had gone, man, I don't care about CM Punk, I'm going for the world title, CM Punk was going, well, I do care about MJF, but I don't have to waste my time on him. I'm also going to go for the world title. And once again, if you can't figure this one out, I actually think you watching the show. Punk also dropped the line that MJF was a bigger waste of Khan money than Tim Tebow. So I was like, man, this is a really good episode of Dynamite, because I feel like it's speaking to me. And yes, in a few days, in a few weeks, in a few months, maybe in a year, you are going to get Punk versus MJF. It's also going to have world title stipulations. I cannot wait for this. I bet that match will be far better than even we are expecting. And then Dynamite went full on talking time. I mean, everybody was here and everybody was chatting, and it was a little bit of an assault on the senses. Because not only did we have Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Stark challenging Dante Martin, we also had Sammy Guevara talking about the TNT Championship and how he wants a rematch with Cody Rhodes. And then Serena Deeb was also on the TV going, man, Sheeta, I'm gonna kill you. It carried on because we then went to the ring when Tony Schiavone was interviewing Brian Pillman Jr., but actually fair play to Bri. He took a microphone in his hand, and he was so annoyed about what Malachi Black had done to Griff Garrison, and he was so annoyed about what Malachi Black had done to Julia Hart, I think he cut the best promo of his career. I was also going, no, because Brian Pillman, do you want Malachi Black to turn up and just rip you in two? And surprise, surprise, when he was done, the lights went out, they came back on, Malachi was there, and that's basically what he did, like a disappointed dad. Just shook his head like, you shouldn't have done it, you gonna get it. And of course, we're getting that match next week. And put your hands up if you're just a little bit worried. We then went back into even more talking because we had CM Punk and Darby Allin falling out with the Acclaimed, and we're going to get that match soon. And we had the Bunny, Penelope Ford, Ty Conte and Anna Jay saying they're also going to have a match. Then I had to go and lay down. Like, I like the fact that AEW tries to get as many people on the show as possible, but my word, I tried to stick it all in my brain, and I think I've already forgotten it. Probably means I need to see a doctor. It's none of your concern. And then, well, if you are like me and you just enjoy all of professional wrestling, whether it's AEW, WWE, NXT, Ring of Honor, Impact, pick whichever one you want, this was just the most surreal but best experience ever. Because it was Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish taking on the best friends, and as I always say, imagine in January 2021, I said, the last Dynamite of the year is going to end with the Undisputed Era in the main event. You would have ripped out my tongue, because I should never be allowed to speak again. O'Reilly and Fish even came out to their whole Red Dragon stuff, so we ain't shying away from that at all. And of course, because Adam Cole hates Orange Cassidy, he was going after the piece of fruit almost instantly. This didn't work at all though, because it allowed Bobby to flap over and hit a senton on the piece of fruit. What a sentence that was that just came out of my mouth. Adam got his just desserts almost instantly because Trent and Chuck got in there and they walloped him for a while. And then Tony Schiavone told us, oh, by the way, we're going to go long on this last ever episode on TNT. And we did. I think we clocked out like 1 minute or 2 minutes over. And once more, because I am a massive loser, I loved it. It kind of makes the whole thing feel real. And to be totally honest with you, this is a match that you need to go and check out because it is such a crazy thing to see and because everybody works so well together. Like, you could have had this as a main event on a pay-per-view if you had done the right build, and I wouldn't have minded it at all. I mean, when Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly were doing all their old tag team stuff, I was just doing that. Like I'm Kevin Nash or Diesel, but I wanted to stay quiet, but I also wanted to celebrate. The underlying part of all of this too was who Adam Cole is going to side with, and the commentators did a great job in kind of underlying that, which is why when Kyle O'Reilly accidentally booted him in the face, he was going for Orange Cassidy and said, everybody's eyebrows went up. Before all this too, we had a bunch of brawling on the outside, including Adam Cole taking a back jump on the floor and Chuck Taylor jumping off the stage and taking out everyone. And around this point is when Brandon Cutler was like, man, I better run out there and cause the distraction, which of course led to the arrival of the Young Bucks. Because given the referee wasn't looking in the right direction, because he is a professional wrestling official, they super kicked the best friends, which allowed the Red Dragon to hit their finishing move. They got the 1, 2, 3, but do you know what the last shot we saw was? It was Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly swimming around in the ring, where on the outside, Matt and Nick were talking to Adam Cole, going, see, why the hell are you aligning yourself with these guys? They don't like you, whereas when it comes to us, we love you. So something is going down, and as ever, you know, the AEW is going to let this play out for probably weeks, if not months, and it is getting an up, because as far as I'm concerned, it will end with the Undisputed Era, I didn't say it, getting back together, and feuding with the Young Bucks and probably somebody else, Kenny Omega. Didn't really cover my voice there enough. And admittedly, this was a little bit of a strange AEW Dynamite, because when you went through all the finishes, it actually went heel win, heel win, heel win, heel win, heel win, heel win. But I have trust in AEW that they will always make it right, and eventually, or when it's time for the culmination, the babyface will get the victory and make me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. So once again, overall, it is getting it up. Now, please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's AEW Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, including about Tony Storm. Don't know what's going on there, but when we know, you will know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and watch all the videos you can. Otherwise, why the hell are we making them? My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Make sure you have a lovely day and make sure you have a wonderful new year. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching my nonsense. Thank you for sending me nice words, which you do. And even thank you to those crazies that go, Simon, you're a biased piece of trash. As long as you're watching, I'm a happy pup. Happy New Year. See you soon.